Welcome to Fireside Chats, and I'm Jonathan Kersting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council. And this is our opportunity to talk to the absolute coolest companies in Pittsburgh. And one of those companies today is Woolpert. And I am hanging out with Aaron Morris. Aaron, you're doing some great stuff at Woolpert. There's a fantastic story about Woolpert itself, but also how your former company, All Vision, got rolled up into Woolpert to do some pretty incredible stuff here in Pittsburgh. I cannot wait to unpack this with you today because I just have so much fun, especially looking at some of the history of the company, but really looking at the future of what you guys are doing. So thanks for being with me here today.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
This is a blast. This is a blast.
So much fun. I absolutely love it. So first and foremost, your background real fast. First off, you're on our board of directors, which I love. I love it at the Tech Council.
I'm glad you acknowledged that. I was going to throw that out there. Full disclosure. Worked with you a long time.
Yes.
Phenomenal organization. Phenomenal.
Keep talking,
people.
man.
I'm serious. Like, I know anybody listening who's not a member,
Okay.
you should be.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Let's go
You're
there.
you're missing out.
Well,
You're
thank you.
missing
No,
out.
I appreciate that. No, that means a lot to us because we get so excited when we have men and women like you who are in the trenches, building companies, innovating to help guide us at the Tech Council. And like I said, that it's such a two-way street of us helping you, you helping us. And right now, I want to help you because I want to tell the story of Woolpert because this is one of these companies where, like, when I first heard that All Vision was acquired by Woolpert, I was like, who the heck is Woolpert? And as I've learned about Woolpert, my brain has been blown in the fact that Pittsburgh is the innovation HQ, and you got a lot to do with that, Aaron. So,
Well, yes.
I don't want to overcredit you.
Yeah, no, I'll take all the credit. No, it's so it's funny because I've actually known Woolpert for a long time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. As I don't, I'm not my first rodeo in terms of startup companies, and so first company also kind of in this survey industry.
Yeah.
And ran into Woolpert, and I'm like, what is Woolpert? Just to kind of give you the high level. So Woolpert is a AEG company. It's architecture, engineering, and geospatial. You usually hear a C in there.
It's the geospatial. It's the geospatial
But it's the
part.
geospatial that makes us unique. And it's, as you mentioned, I think it's 110 years old, 112, somewhere in that ballpark. And I always like to name drops. Well, original clients were Orville and Wilbur Wright. A lot of survey for the airfields. And
I love it.
I'm like, name any other company who can name drop those people, right?
Exactly right. Exactly.
But because of their survey background, and they've been always very tech focused, and they've headquartered in Dayton.
Yeah, just over the border.
Just over the border.
Yeah.
Kind of doing their thing for a long time. And, always getting to new technology, laser scanning. That's always been a big part. Because of the aviation, I think they kind of were brought into, hey, can we fly laser scanners and cameras? And I'm like, sure.
To attach them to cars and stuff like that when you were doing the owners.
No. I've always been ground based, and that's actually how we kind of came into it.
Right, exactly.
It was again, like most things, it was an introduction. At the time, the current CEO was kind of leading their business M&A efforts, and it was just kind of a meeting through our investors, and just, hey,
this makes sense, right?
Yeah, well, they're like, hey, you guys should talk. Like,
okay, talk about what?
Right. And then we got into it, and geeked out a little bit on all the technology that Woolpert's doing.
Yeah. Well, I feel like going in with Woolpert just allowed you to just take literally to a new level with what you're doing in geospatial, right?
Well,
I mean, the idea that you're flying, you can attach this to airplanes and look at what's on the ground.
I'll tell you what's most exciting about this is anybody's doing AI, right? Platforms and so forth. And like I said, my background is robotics, PhD, Carnegie Mellon University.
Rumors I've heard about that.
Yeah,
yes,
I've since the kind of there when the whole self-driving car thing started. But I've always been in the AI side, and what's really interesting is you, as a technologist, you understand data, you understand statistics, you understand like the algorithms, but you don't understand the application. So you're building these things, and like you're going in, like when and with my last company that I started with a couple people, All Vision, which was what we talked about, kind of the kit car.
Exactly. We'll talk about kit later.
Kit car. But our angle on the whole autonomous vehicle was not solely let's make cars drive. But these cards are collecting really valuable data.
Loads of data. So
Loads of data,
important.
and, like,
Yeah. For
they're all
infrastructure
yeah,
reasons, like all types of
and they're
things.
focused,
Yeah.
rightfully so, on the driving and the autonomy, but I'm like, cities need this, municipalities need this, DOTs need this, and they don't need the raw data. There's not much they can do with that, but they need the information and insights that are drawn from it.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of how we came into be. But when you journey into that, all of a sudden you're an expert in, DOT roadside assets. They're like, okay,
We all want to be
like,
experts in that.
well, I'm
No,
like,
it's so.
so
This is
they're like,
something.
okay, what do
Yeah.
we do? And it's, you're so totally naive. You're walking into this and like, let's go find stop signs.
But I
And
think about how important that is because, I mean, our infrastructure is crumbling. It needs to be made more efficient. It needs to be strengthened. And you're collecting all the data on it. So you can make actionable insights. You can monitor, you can check progress.
yeah,
I think there's so many ways that you can slice and dice this. To me, it's fascinating. And to bring that at the scale that Woolpert can bring it to the
well,
customers that Woolpert
and
has is
and
pretty fun.
it's not even fun. Like it is like kid in a candy shop,
I
right?
love
Because like,
that. Yes.
because here's all this data, and the thing about Woolpert, right? We're approximately like 3,000 to, probably 3 to 4,000
Right.
employees.
Yeah, exactly.
Global.
Yeah.
I think is at 75 offices, 5 continents, and experts, subject matter experts, SMEs that we like to call them,
SMEs.
in everything. Whereas before we were the software platform and we had to talk to somebody in a DOT or
You had to convince them
and like
what
convince
you
them, and
could
then, well,
provide.
how do road curvatures like what does it mean, right?
Exactly.
What does this crack mean if I see this? Whereas now I can go internally into the company and find a resource, and then we can start to train
Yeah.
our models much faster.
You
And
got to be having so much fun.
oh,
I'm serious because I'm thinking about, I know how you just, with your robotics background, how
yeah.
you just get into this, and the idea that you can really apply this at scale like you couldn't have ever before, because
Yes.
Woolpert is just so far reaching.
Well, it's far reaching, and again, I suffer from curiosity.
Okay.
So,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Quit
well,
suffering, Aaron. Quit suffering.
well, the problem is you're interested in just about everything.
I love that.
And
That's
like
so cool.
you want to like in the course of a week, I'm talking about landslides here and how do we kind of
Right.
like
Yeah.
track, and then I'm talking about utility and vegetation management. Then I'm talking about data center design. We're like number 5 in the world for
Well, we
data
can
center.
talk about data center design.
And,
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
all over the place.
See, I feel like there's just so much that Woolpert does that, once again, like you said, you become that kid in the candy store because you can apply all the technology to all these different areas.
Yep.
And to an established customer base as well too. So you're not doing that sales pitch like I'm the startup, trust in me, right?
No,
Yeah,
and
it's so cool.
And the other thing I will say to that effect is because I lead AI for the entire company.
Well, so tell me about that, because
Okay.
this is like a new title as well too, which I think is
it's
so
a little bit,
exciting.
yeah. So when we came in, our geospatial sector it's the big one, and they're like, okay, you are ground based. Let's figure out the airborne data sets and how you can be valuable there. So I've been there 2.5 years. Spent the first 2 years just understanding geospatial. Just like I said, why does it matter? Hydrography, all these various applications, and then going into this year. But again, I'm curious, so I started. There's a building sector, and I used to work for Autodesk, and I'm like, oh, okay, scan to BIM. Let's talk about that. And then there's an infrastructure side, which is really talking about roads and highways, which I just came from. That's all I'm talking to them. So they couldn't keep me just in this one box.
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
So I'm then talking to everybody, and they're like, just let them go ahead and just run with it.
Just run with it. So I love the fact that you're leading all AI for this massive company that's across 5 continents, but your HQ here in Pittsburgh, all around innovation, which I think is fantastic. I think you're over like 50 people here now, which is exciting. And that to me just shows that, wow, Pittsburgh is a place for you guys to grow. And I'm excited for you guys. What can I say?
We're thrilled to be. I mean, I've always been here, Pittsburgh, never leaving. Even when my last company, first company, was acquired by Autodesk, I'm like, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm staying.
Sticking around.
I'm going nowhere. Well, we're glad that we're glad. I know you've had very strong roots to the region, which is fantastic. And I think you bring in that passion to Woolpert, I think it's just going to help it grow its Pittsburgh presence even better.
Well, that, I'll give a, kudos to Neil Sherman, who is our CEO, and
He's here too, which is
he is
so cool.
here.
Yes.
I mean, he didn't, he's the one who kind of brought us in. He kind of had the vision. I mean, he
Yes.
obviously, a little bit of interest in seeing the region and
Yeah.
his hometown, kind of grow, but kind of came in and said, look, I'm if it works out, this will definitely be a core part of our innovation strategy, is this hub. Because where else in the world are you going to get this mix of technologists, roboticists, laser
Exactly.
scanning, data scientists, but with, real world, salt of the earth, boots on the ground, who get stuff done.
Exactly. Well, I had an interview with Neil a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
I said nice things about you.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I put
All
a
right.
good word
Well,
for
okay.
you. But no, you are saying what you were saying is exactly echoing what he was saying, and his specialty has been with the mergers and acquisitions. And he told me that when he goes for a merger and an acquisition, like he looks for this cultural fit. There's this underlying thing that has to be there before the money makes sense, before all that. And so I think he picks up on the culture and just the energy of what your company was bringing. So that made it a perfect fit.
Yeah.
For it to come into what he's trying to build here in Pittsburgh, which has me excited, because to have Pittsburgh be the innovation hub, for something that this massive company is doing, to me, that is like the crown jewel, because I mean, that's where the rubber meets the road for me, as far as I'm concerned.
And you really, having now worked small company, startup to big company, when it comes to innovation, it really starts at the top.
Absolutely.
Because it's very difficult to come in and like change like how things work.
Exactly.
People resist it, so you really need that kind of, approval. Go do what you're going to do, make things better. And Neil's been great at that. Woolpert, again, culturally, is adjusted to that. And no,
well, I think the whole point of what Neil's building, what you're building, it kind of goes down to what Peter Drucker says, that the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's what you guys are doing right now.
Oh, yeah.
I think is just absolutely amazing. Maybe could we walk through like some real world examples?
Sure.
As to like how you're using geospatial technology. I know when I spoke with Neil, he told me a little bit about how you're using some geospatial across the Appalachian Basin in order to look at fault lines and things like that around pipelines to make sure that like they don't get crushed by landslides. And these are things that are just so important to society. Like we don't need our pipelines being run over by piles of rocks, right?
Correct.
I mean, we need safety, we need oil flow, all the good stuff. Give me some examples. I want to nerd out with you here.
Where to begin? I mean, that's the one thing that I've come to appreciate with my career path is like you just learn about the world.
Okay.
Like all of these like things that you just assume that magically work or
don't.
And
I'm one of those. I don't wake up in the morning thinking that the lights are going to turn on. I mean, you do, but every time you do that, like there's a whole system in place that made that happen.
You don't really. I mean, you look in your house and you see like, oh, here's a gas line and here's a water line, but you don't think how it like routes through the rest of the world.
Exactly right.
And these massive pipelines that are going through no man's land across ridges and mountainsides. If they're not structurally stable, they collapse, and it's a big problem.
It makes your lights not turn on in the morning. We expect our lights to turn on. I think about some of the technology that was being used at All Vision, and then taking that to this bigger level. That Woolpert's been doing. Is there something you can walk me through on that?
Well, here's what I'd like to talk about on that front, which is how to architect an AI framework.
Okay. Very cool.
Because I think this is important because it is the buzzword. Like you put an AI or we like to talk about geo AI, which is geospatial AI focus. And you throw that in like a title of a talk and like you're in,
Exactly. Like, tell me more, please. Tell me more.
But when it comes to kind of our workflows, and we learned this back in All Vision, where you're being hired or your software is being, hired to deliver an information product. You're going to count on this.
Yeah, no, you're literally relying on this.
That's why.
If you're trusting it.
Don't give me like, this is kind of, this looks a bit, right? You see some of the image generated from the generative AI and like on the surface, like they look great. But then when you look into it, wait a minute, like those are not real words.
Why do those cars have 3 headlights?
4 fingers.
Exactly. It's all good. You stay far enough away, it's pretty good.
But you can't get away with that, especially when you're a survey company, right?
No.
And so you have to architect the systems in the way that you ensure you want to take advantage of AI,
Yeah,
but you want to ensure that the work product or information products are
exactly.
the same caliber as a human,
See,
right?
and that is, I mean, you're making that sound like, oh yeah, but to do that
But to do
requires a yeoman's lift
it,
because
it is
yeah,
it is and the way that I like to describe it, because it's what we learned back in the all vision. You take data in, you kind of I think of it as an information product production line, like
okay,
like an
I like
assembly
that.
line,
Okay, yeah, 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 yeah,
like
that's
where
awesome. I love that.
you
Very
know
visual. Okay, cool.
visual, like you're seeing, and instead of like chocolates or whatever coming off the conveyor belt, right?
Chocolate. Let's talk more. Okay.
It's delicious, DTMs, right? Like, oh,
Exactly.
man.
This is DPO. Quote of the
Yeah, quite a
day.
bit. But yeah, no, it's like picture in AI and all the automation, which is, kind of AI, but, or just we programmed it, is the conveyor belts or the robotic arms that are going and like making things. And you need to stage people at the right
Yeah.
places along the way to make sure that everything's going as planned. And so when we came in, that's how we started doing business. Like, AI is exciting, but it's really, a tool to enable us to do things better,
Right.
faster, make better products. But humans are integral to it. You can't.
I love when you say that because I mean, so much of the hype you hear about is, oh, it's just taken over. We're not going to have to think. No, 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 no. This is a
No.
great tool that empowers us to do things quickly, sometimes more accurately, but you gotta keep the human in the loop. That's one of the
Yeah.
key takeaways from our Think AI summit that we had
Yep.
recently was keeping the human in the loop, right?
And it's not like you have to.
Yeah.
There's no way about it. I mean, I feel like, a lot of people, because I used to be kind of on the AI platform, you're almost to get attention. You almost have to say it's magic, right? It's amazing.
It's
Like hit the
amazing.
button, all
Exactly.
your work's done. And behind the scenes, okay, guys, make sure that whatever he did looks right,
Exactly.
So no, there's no mystery to it. It's just you have to. There's work involved, and there's just like any project, you get in, you plan it. One thing that I'm responsible for, and I think it's important for anybody kind of bringing in AI into their operations, is to understand what is it that you want to get out of it.
It's a good point. Because a lot of it we're seeing now with the Wild West size, I just gotta say I'm using it, right? And so no one's really being specific
Nobody
about something
like
sometimes. Yeah.
well, because all of a sudden, like a lot of AI, particularly for us, is used to be more efficient, to have better products. So the question is it? Okay, we're investing
Right.
in
We're
this.
investing is, but
Uh,
what's it really doing?
But
Yeah.
what is it really doing? And you hear all kinds of stories like, well, it summarized this email. I would have spent like 5 minutes reading this email, and like it did it in a minute, and I read it in 30 seconds. Well, see,
And I'm trusting it actually summarized it properly. Exactly. Wait a second.
but like it's all these stories,
Yeah.
and when you architect these things, you probably should think about, how do I measure? How do I make
Good
sure?
insight. I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah. Now, how do
Yeah.
you can? And you don't want the measurement to be disruptive. You don't want to. Okay, everybody at the end of their shift, fill out. How much time did you spend doing this versus what you would have spent, right? Okay, we just added more work for somebody. So architecting in a way that can be measured, and the leaders, the people holding the purse strings who are investing in this, they get a sense of like, okay, no, this is going the right way.
Yeah, that's great insight. I appreciate you bringing that up because I think that's something we need to always be reminding ourselves of because
Yeah,
there is that fantasy of it where it's like, hey, look, I'm making pictures, but
right.
if you really look, they're not so great.
Well, and I'm susceptible to anyone else. You can go down rabbit holes with
Oh
these
yeah.
things because
Oh,
they're designed like most things online to keep your
absolutely.
attention. What have you thought about this link? No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness. So as Woolpert moves forward, how do you continue to want to do more with AI? Like, how do you see that driving forward into the future?
I mean, we're all in. I
Yeah.
think when we came in, it was like, okay, again, wouldn't call geospatial the guinea pig, but if you look at the
Mhm.
geospatial, our data sets are massive, right? There are cities, there are counties, there are countries, right?
How many petabytes of data do you have?
I mean, at this point, I get it.
Exactly.
But
Money.
when you're at that scale,
Yep.
And so one of the workflows that we do, talk about applications. So we work with the USGS. We provide a lot of their 3D, which is elevation data. And when they're talking about elevation, what they don't want is, somebody decided to make a pile of rocks, or, there's a deck up the back of a house, right? I don't want that to count as, true elevation. So somebody has to sift through all that
all
data.
those data points.
And you're looking at a county and you want to find this little, this pond.
You're like, wow, there's a lot of decks and piles of rocks here.
Yeah.
Who would have known?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
And perfect application for AI. So we came in and, built a framework that allowed.
There you go, back with the frameworks. Yes.
That's streamlined. It's kind of like spell correct.
Yeah.
If you misspell a word, it's like little, jagged line. It's kind of like that, in that we find the issue and then we suggest the change. Okay.
But a human is still actually at some point.
Humans in the cockpit still.
Okay.
But it's, hey, we found this issue. And to correct this issue would normally require you now to jump in the data and do all these editing, which would take time. But hey, if you think this is the issue and here's the recommended change,
It'll do
just hit yes.
Oh, just hit yes. Very cool.
You've turned.
Oh man, that's amazing. So those are the types of things I just think about, how that improves business across so many levels, and how responsibly using AI is just driving so much change. And I just feel like you get this front row seat there every day.
It's really,
no wonder you're so stoked, man. I love it.
No, I love it. You really do take a step back and realize that you are front row to this massive change.
Yeah.
In the world and society, and trying to do the right things to steer it in the right direction.
100%. Well, you're doing that, and this has just been a fascinating conversation. As I've learned more about Woolpert over the past few months, and remember big news when All Vision became part of that. And now that I know what it's all about, I'm like, oh wow, this is so cool. I cannot wait to watch you guys continue to grow in Pittsburgh. So when I was talking with Neil, I mean, this guy is so optimistic.
Oh yeah.
And he said nice things about you as well too, which is great.
Yeah,
so you guys are good. You guys are good.
Hey, we're offices near each other.
It'd be very awkward. In all seriousness, I just think this is just an amazing thing for our region. I cannot wait to watch this keep growing. Now, as we move on our conversation here, we're going to wind things up, but this is time for some bonus content. Someone wants to keep hanging on.
Okay.
You know where I'm heading with this. So we go back a long way.
We
there.
do.
Back to many of your startups, and we're both car guys.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got to talk about Kit. I mean, you're the only guy I know in the world, and I know people with really cool cars. Don't get me wrong, but I think you're on the top of my list because you actually have built a version of Kit from Knight Rider.
I have.
So, yes.
I can
tell me about the
Kit.
Tell
our
story watchers about the Kit.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But I will say that once you have a Kit, then you attract all the other Kit owners.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Then, you hear all of their stories.
Oh no.
But
maybe we shouldn't talk about this.
No. This one's a fun one. So when I started, or we started All Vision.
Yeah.
It was the last company came into Woolpert. We got kicked off in partnership with some of the autonomous vehicle companies in the region.
Right.
Like they were, they had data, we had insights and access, and everybody was looking for strategies to how to monetize it. So we pitched them, they're like, yeah, sure. But we don't want you going around and telling everybody that you're using our data. So keep it under
Keep it on the download, dude.
So we're going, the founding crew, going to New York to fundraise, and we're talking about this, and we're just like, I can't really talk about who we're working with, and man, it would be great to have some connection. And then we got on the topic of high school cars, and he was like, Aaron, what'd you drive? I'm like, 87 Firebird. Black. And I was like, is it like Kit? I'm like, yeah, kind of like Kit from Knight Rider. And they're like, okay, here's the deal. If we close the founding round, right? We need a spokesperson or car.
We're drilling holes. We're drilling holes in the
We're turning it in to Kit. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I'm in. I will just go with that.
I'm so glad you closed that round, dude. That's all I can say.
We closed the round. And I'm like, okay, and this is forgotten. And they're like, okay, you got to hold up your end of the bargain, Aaron. So I look, and I was like, okay, it's been a while since the 80s, and this was popular. Is this a real thing? And I search, and it turns out, I don't know what they're called now, but they were called the Historians of Knight Rider.
Okay.
They're in Butler.
In Butler, nonetheless.
Yes, in Butler.
See, more local
They
knowledge that I
had,
love.
I think they even have more now, but they had 2 of the original, I think only remaining 5 production
The actual kits. Okay.
and they had a sort of a side hustle in which they would build custom, kit people who were just passionate about. And I messaged like, well, here's a deal. This is really for PR, and I just want to do the exterior, and I'm just looking for parts. And they're like, $100 in a truck, and you can just come on up. And I'm like,
What?
deal.
Okay.
So go up there, get the parts. They have everything I need on the exterior
Okay.
to make it look like kit. The one key piece, which is
Strobe, dude.
the strobe.
Yes,
The
on the
blinky light.
front hood.
Exactly.
And
So I'm like, okay, well, I've got some time. Maybe I'll get an intern from CMU or somewhere that'll make me a strobe.
yeah. How hard could it be?
How hard could it be?
Apparently, it's impossible.
Well, the problem was, I thought I had infinite time, but as I'm driving back, my investor, it's like, hey, Aaron, here's a crazy situation. Was talking with the former guy, Mattel. He's in some show on the History Channel, and it was something about the cars that kind of affected technology or the impact.
Yeah, okay.
It's by David Hasselhoff.
Of course.
And
the Hoff.
The Hoff. That's it. Refer to him as the Hoff.
Exactly.
And then we want this car to be for the autonomous vehicle side. I'm like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Like, what? And it's you got 2 weeks to
got
be in.
2 weeks to hook
or
her up.
3 weeks to get into New York with this. I'm like, I just got this. So
I love this.
So then we were scrambling to get this thing together, and now I needed this. And so I, again, went good old internet, searched, and found this like hobbyist in Italy.
I remember this part. Yes. I love this part.
And he had a few of these, and PayPal him or whatever, $200, and he
is that like in lira or something like that?
I'm like, I hope this is not a scam.
You're like, what? Where's my strobe?
Full. What? Who's ordering?
Yeah.
But sure enough, it like a few days later or whatever pops up and comes to the office, and I'm so excited. I like unbox it, and I see there's the control board has an audio jack. I'm like, oh man. And the key fob has all these buttons, so you can hear the voices.
Oh my god!
And so I get the entire company, which is like 12 people or whatever at the time, like, come listen to this. So we turn it on, and like the light comes on, and it's
working,
got the sound
doing its thing. Okay.
I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I'm like, okay, get ready, guys. And I hit the button, and you hear it speaking. It goes, oh, mamma mia! Oh, Italian. So I have Italian kit.
He's a little more debonair, dude. Come on. He actually drives a Lambo. Yeah.
And we ended up going to New York and filming with the History Channel.
I remember that.
And,
yes.
And then they gave me lines. I'm like, I didn't know there were going to be lines.
So they actually had things for you to say.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. They were like, referred him as the Hoff. And
okay, I see. I knew that part, man.
Yeah, but they're like, hey, Hoff.
And don't look him directly in the eyes.
Yeah, well, and he wasn't there, but they're like, in the way that they were going to do it, it's like we're gonna superimpose your videos to your like screens on your cars, so you'll be talking to each other through cars. Like, awesome. Ooh. And he was like, hey, Hoff, you like foresaw the future of autonomous vehicles. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have some peers that are gonna hate me.
That's a little bit of a stretch, but let's just roll with that. I was more impressed with his ability to actually drive the car off of a rolling 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
And onto the road. Like that takes nerves of steel right there.
It does.
And maybe there's some sensors that help with that at this point in time. But I think back then there was just a really brave stunt driver.
There was, yes.
And
a lot of Pontiacs.
And a lot of transmissions. But that's a cool story. I love getting a little bit of something like that of someone, because I think that is just so cool. And that's Pittsburgh, man.
Yeah, it really is.
And your story is Pittsburgh in the best way possible. And I'm just so excited for what Woolpert is doing here. And Aaron, having you at the helm of all things AI, pretty freaking cool, man.
I really appreciate
dude,
that.
thank you for entertaining me.
And
informing me more than anything. So much fun all the way around. Oh my goodness. Thanks again. In case you forgot, this is Jonathan Kersting with the Pittsburgh Technology Council. We love doing these fireside chats. This is our way to really tell the stories of folks like Aaron Moore's here, who are just kicking some serious butt. More importantly, They're all making Pittsburgh proud. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.